Are you looking for a fun way to win up to 25 times your money this football and basketball season? Test your skills on Prize Picks, the most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Just select two or more players, pick more or less on their projections for a wide variety of stats, and place your entry. It's as easy as that. If you have the skills, you can turn $10 into $250 with just a few taps. Easy gameplay, quick withdrawals, and injury insurance on your picks are what makes Prize Picks the #1 daily fantasy sports app. Ready to test your skills? Join the PrizePicks community of more than 7 million players who have already signed up. Right now, PrizePicks will match your first deposit up to $100. Just visit prizepicks.com/bluewire and use code BLUEWIRE. That's code BLUEWIRE at prizepicks.com/bluewire for a first deposit match of up to $100. PrizePicks, daily fantasy sports made easy.
Today's episode is brought to you by Cars.com. With over 2 million vehicles and 50,000 more added every day, Cars.com will match you with the perfect car for you, your budget, your life, your style. And if you're ready to say goodbye to your current car, Cars.com will get you an instant offer to cash it in. Just start by entering your license plate and get matched with a local dealer who will write you the check. So whether you're looking to buy or sell, just go to Cars.com. It's magical.
Hey everyone, it's Josh Bowe, MavsMoneyball.com, coming to you with the first edition of the 2022-2023 season of Mavs Moneyball After Dark. I'm joined by Kirk Henderson, our fellow editor, and the reason why I'm starting off this podcast is because I will confess to you, dear listeners, I messed up my schedule and I watched only 4 minutes of this basketball game. So Kirk, how are you doing?
I'm okay.
I'm off to a great start.
Well, to be fair to you and to anyone else who may have missed the game, it was extraordinarily difficult to watch this game. It was not televised anywhere except for Mavs.com.
So you mean literally watching it, not just the on-court
Right. So it's like I have some kind of bootleg TV service, and I couldn't even find it on that. And and I can find like soccer games on Mars if I want to. So it's like this game did not exist for all intents and purposes. We watched a broadcast with Dana Larson, Bobby Corrala, Katya, and Isaac Harris, our friend from Locked On Mavs. Shout out to Isaac for taking a random shot at me being old at the end of the broadcast. That was like sitting there like half paying attention, and then I was like, "Oh, cool! I just got dunked on. That's neat."
I don't know if you've ever watched I Think You Should Leave, but there's a really funny sketch. It reminds me of that where they're doing a courtroom scene and they're reading text messages from the defendants, and the whole gist of it is that in between like the incriminating text, they're making fun of a coworker's hat, and he's sitting in the jury or in the audience, or in the general seating area with the hat, going like, "What the hell?" It's just that reminded me of that.
Well, and so the game, we've not even mentioned the game final score. The Mavericks pulled ahead late, 98-96, and part of why we're not in a hurry to really get to the score of the game is because like preseason basketball should be about taking away the things that you find are fun and perhaps ignoring things that irritate you. For me, this game had a fair number of things which irritated me. But when, Luka Doncic didn't play, Tim Hardaway didn't play, Maxi Kleber didn't play, JaVale McGee didn't play, and neither did our Latvian Laser. And so it's, 4 rotation guys didn't play. So it's like there's a level of like overreaction to some bad stuff that is really easy to do that I'm trying not to do. I was like, and then there's some like fun stuff, which I think people should actually be happy about. And I think we should sort of start with that first. And for me, the early things which mattered in the game is for the third straight televised appearance, I felt that Josh Green looked very good. He looked comfortable. He looked confident. He did some handling of the rock. He got a nice steal, led to a dunk. He was moving with a purpose. And that's nice to see. That's probably going to be the early takeaway for most really like excited Mavs fans, and I think that's a thing I want you to take away. I'm a little bit kind of a game pessimist, and we can talk about some of that stuff in the back half of like things where I'm just like, ugh, with elements of what went on. But Green looked really good. And then the second thing to take away, which you caught a significant portion of, is that Jaden Hardy is another young, confident player who looks like he knows a significant amount about what he ought to, like what his role could be. Like he showed some shot making, some bursts of athleticism. It's not like he's a one of one athlete, but I liked watching him play in the limited minutes against like both teams super scrubs. So what, since you actually got to see that, let's talk about that a little more.
Yeah, Hardy was fun, and I think I wrote it in the preseason primer, but one of the things that I was most excited about was getting to watch Jaden Hardy play off ball with honest to God NBA spacing with actual NBA quality point guards. Because I know his summer league was rough, but I mean, I can't emphasize enough, like, the hodgepodge that is summer league. I mean, even the coaching staff is hot. I mean, the Mavericks changed summer league coaches in the middle of summer league. Like, I mean, everything was just kind of, let's throw some things against the wall and see what sticks. Like, that was not an environment for someone like him to thrive, especially when they're asking him to basically be the full-time point guard. Like, that's just not, I don't think that's his game. And that's not a knock against him. He's just really skilled at other areas of the game. And I think he looked so much more comfortable with his jumper. And I think he is a smart off-ball player. And I think, I was just impressed with his decision-making. I know he did have 4 turnovers and 1 assist, but when I mean decision-making, like, he didn't try to play like point guard floor general. Like, he was on the floor to shoot and score and take advantage of whatever space that was created for him, playing alongside, McKinley Wright, the point guard out of Colorado, who was pretty impressive in terms of like managing the game in the second half. He had 10 assists in 22 minutes. So I think that did wonders for Hardy. And like, I'm just more excited to see more opportunities. Can he play some minutes with Spencer Dinwiddie? Can he play some minutes with Luka? Like, that'll be really fun for his development. But yeah, it was fun. Like you said, it was just really cool to see.
Well, and in terms of like the quality of basketball that went on,
yeah,
Mavs
had 24.
24 turnovers.
Thunder had 21.
And that's kind of like, that was a strict result of the process that they were going for. Bobby Corrala talked about this in the broadcast, where there were passes being made that were not crisp, but 2 kind of come from trust and also come from, frankly, Luka Doncic's penetration, where you're running like if you run a high screen and roll going from the left side to the right side, and you're trying a cross court pass from like moderate penetration, that like those passing lanes aren't there if you're, I don't even know, like Spencer Dinwiddie to a degree, but I thought he played pretty well, but everybody had a ton of turnovers. Yeah. It's like they're so evenly dispersed. Nobody had more than 5, but everybody who saw minutes except for Hall and Reggie Bullock had a turnover. Oh, I guess DJ Stewart didn't have a turnover either, but it's just like there's a lot of 24 is a lot.
Yeah, I think there were like 14, 15 in the third quarter alone.
Yeah, so it was some sloppy basketball.
So yeah, but I didn't get to watch, unfortunately I didn't get to watch Josh Green. I know you talked more about him, but just looking at his box score, I mean, 2 things that like I really like. One, he played 23 minutes, which was 3rd most on the team, which is great. Like, I think the thing me and you have always agreed on is he just needs time, just the way.
Yep.
He's had 2 COVID shortened seasons. He didn't have summer league. He got drafted in November of 2020, and NBA training camp started 30 days later, like, which is crazy. So like, we just wanted to see him get time, and he took 5 shots in those 23 minutes. Like, I'm just glad that, I didn't watch it, so fill me in, but that just seems like he felt, he was a little bit more assertive with his time on the floor.
He was more assertive and like purposeful with his movements in a way that's kind of hard to describe in a podcast. But I felt last year, and when you're driving against Rudy Gobert, I know it's a different deal, but there were opportunities last year where he would drive without a plan.
Yeah.
And he was going a little bit too fast at all times still. Tonight he pump faked and dribbled in where I really wish he would have shot the ball a couple of times, but that's a matter of playing more. He still makes nice reads, or at least he's seeing the floor in a way that indicates that with more process, the reads are going to result in better things for the Mavericks. It's I'm not doing a great job of describing this because there was such a frenetic energy about him last year. And when they were playing bad teams, that often really worked because you're playing another team that doesn't entirely know what's going on. And Green could sort of, just survive by doing some crazy stuff. And
scrapping, going for loose
there were
balls
elements
and
of his
stuff like
game
that.
tonight that felt really calm and smooth in
That's
ways.
really good to hear.
Yeah, and the smoothness is there. Now, I have to couch this because I think, judging from how people are talking online, and this is just online, but that conversation bleeds down from Twitter into Reddit, into Facebook. Like, expectations at this point for Josh Green are wildly out of whack with what I think they ought to be. More from Green is important. Consistency and really just confidence are important. He needs to be a positive contributor. But remember, most people that play in the league score under 10 points a game. So, assuming like some stat markers for him, I don't think is a good bellwether for what he ought to do. He needs to add when he's on the floor, and that's going to be enough for me, because there were games last year where he needed to soak up minutes, and it was not particularly helpful. Somebody pointed out in my preview of the season that I wrote about him that, the minutes might not be there for him. And that's true. But what Green can do to earn more minutes is play consistently. So against the Phoenix Suns on opening night, if he plays 11 minutes and has 2 shots and no rebounds and 2 turnovers or something, that, there's going to be no reason to overreact. And I'm saying that for me as much as I am anybody else. But it's an understanding of, like, these things don't happen overnight. I made the comparison to Matthew last night when we were talking. It's kind of like fantasy football where, you draft a rookie and you hope that he comes in and gives you minutes, or gives you points. But really what happens with the really talented ones is it takes them 4 to 5 games before they start to get into things. And, we might not see, some real growth from Green at the NBA level until, game 20. But if he can continue to chip away and make an argument for why he needs to play, I really believe the Mavericks will play him.
Yeah, totally. And like you said, it's going to be some nights he's going to get 8 to 11 minutes. Some nights he might get 15 to 20. We don't know what the injuries are going to be like.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know how the season's going to go. But like you said, it's less about like points, and I just care about minutes is big, just to see him play. Shot attempts is big because he needs to be more assertive, but otherwise, outside of that, I'm not really looking at box score numbers. I'm just looking at, hey, when he's on the floor, like you said, when he's on the floor, does the team still play well? And I think back to another young Mavericks wing that used to frustrate you, Jay Crowder. I remember the 2015 season before he got traded for Rondo. I remember he was averaging, his box score counting stats were nothing. Like
he got buried by Richard Jefferson and Carlisle.
Yeah, but when he was on the floor, like there were some lineups where they just were really positive lineups because he wasn't the best defender on the floor. He wasn't the best shooter. Like he just kind of filled the gaps, and it's like, hey, he moves the ball. He's not a ball hog. He doesn't, he plays help defense. Like Green can contribute in ways like that, and not necessarily should feel the pressure to be like, I got to get shots up. I got to score this many points. If he can just contribute in the flow of the game, that's a big step in the right direction.
Yeah. And the other element of sort of what I enjoyed seeing from this game was Hardy. And then everything else I kind of put into, well, let's see, Dorian didn't have a particularly effective game, but I have zero concerns or worries about Dorian. Reggie Bullock hit 2 of 4 from 3. That was fun because we just went through a period last year where he couldn't hit anything. Dwight Powell getting the start was particularly amusing considering McGee was out, and it's like a lot of people just want to see Christian Wood play. Christian Wood's probably the other player that we should consider spending some time on. He played 25 minutes, 16 points, 13 rebounds, 2 of 4 from 3, including one really cool looking one from the corner. Offensively, I don't have any concerns about Christian Wood whatsoever. I think him and Luka, when they get a chance to play together, are going to really work well. I'm going to be curious to see how this bench thing goes and how long the Mavericks can justify playing him off the bench, because really he might be the third best like ball handler on the team.
I got to say, just before we get more going, because you watched him and I didn't, I did see before I had to step out of the house, like the fact that like McGee wasn't playing. I think everyone assumed, oh, well, Christian Wood will start. And the fact that Dwight Powell still started, I thought was like really hilarious. And I know the reason is probably because like, hey, he's coming off the bench and they want him to get used to coming off the bench, because it is different as an NBA player, like when you're warming up and how you get ready for the game coming off the bench. But I just kind of saw that and I was like, oh man, I'm sure people, because Dwight Powell gets a lot of grief on the internet, and I'm sure there were a lot of maybe unhinged takes when people saw that Powell was starting over Christian Wood tonight.
Yeah. Well, and Wood kind of showed you all sorts of elements from his game. Again, kind of the good, the bad, and the ugly. Like his defense is terrible.
Was it bad tonight?
It was bad. And I don't know how, like, I don't want to overreact from that, but it's just every time I see Christian Wood in these, in between these 3 kind of, televised appearances, we've gotten sort of the full gambit of what he brings to the table, both positively and negatively. And I think if the Mavericks, it's going to be kind of on Luka and the coaching staff to figure out how to get the absolute most out of him, because offensively the game comes so easily to him. But Dallas defense, with the players that they have, it's all about the execution, and Wood is going to have to buy in and be better, and just be better. There's really no simpler way to say it. He kind of gets lost sometimes, and defense is really hard at the NBA level. It requires a lot of focus, coaching, and then adherence to the plan, on top of just being like an athlete and understanding what your role is within that system. So I will say the Christian Wood experience is largely positive. I love offensive basketball, and some of the things that he's able to do are really entertaining. And past that, I think until we see him with Luka, everything else sort of needs to be a reserve judgment type situation. But it is what it is. It's like he really does have a nose for the ball and rebounding.
I was about to say, just look, not many Mavericks box scores in the last 5 years would you see someone grab 13 rebounds in 25 minutes.
Well, and I'm very curious as to how that pays in the regular season, because rebounding, more or less, I'm going to take heat from this from longtime basketball watchers, but rebounding has largely, in aggregate over the course of the season, you can minimize its impact. Like Dallas played a math game last year and got out rebounded all the time, and then they also won 75% of their games from January on.
Yeah, I was about to say they made it to the Western Conference Finals, getting out rebounded in every single playoff game.
And it's like the argument of, well, Christian Wood would have helped them rebound in the Western Conference Finals. I'm not sure about that. I need to see it. That's not saying I don't believe it. I'm just saying it needs to be something that's translated, because rebounds can very easily be a bit of an empty stat relative to a thing. It's like, and that, we could make the same argument for Luka Doncic, because Luka gets a ton of them. It's just it's kind of a thing that can get overrated and stuff. But at the same time, you can't discount what you said earlier, where in the last 4, even pre-Luka, the Mavericks haven't been a very good rebounding team for a very long time. So that would just be nice if they could occasionally be on the plus side of the rebounds.
Yeah, it certainly wouldn't hurt.
So the bad. So now, that's kind of the good. The bad, at least in this game, Tyler Dorsey does not look like he belongs whatsoever. Really rough game from him. Like, people angry on the internet, classic.
Yeah,
I didn't really like. I was just kind of
that Eurobasket run really did.
And I don't blame him. I mean, he looked like Tim. Like one of my friends, Jazz, said she called him Tim Hardaway Jr. because he was just gunning. And there's something like it looked like there was something there, and he just like at least tonight he looked lost.
Just one game. I mean, he got shots up, that's for sure. Geez,
Yeah. Six shots in 12 minutes. Congratulations.
Hey, that's what he's on the floor to do, though.
Yeah. Then the other guy, Frank Ntilikina, just sort of 12 minutes, 1 of 3 with 1 steal and 2 turnovers. That was the only statistical contribution. He is not a ball handler. He's just not. It's okay, but he's not. And the sooner the Mavericks kind of move past that as an experiment and slot him in with wing minutes, I think the better off everybody is for it. I mean, Josh Green looks so much more comfortable handling the ball than him. And that it's fine. Like, it's not a negative big picture. It's just sort of a thing that exists. I'm sure
the Frank game stood out even more when with McKinley Wright, being able to get 10 assists in 22 minutes. And I saw some of his floor game in the fourth quarter. And I was generally like, wow, this guy kind of knows what, he's running an NBA offense. Like, I know it's preseason. I know he's doing it against, other training camp invites and rookies and second round picks and whatever. But like, it just goes to show that like, it's not necessarily like, oh, Frank is struggling. It's struggling with this. It'd be like asking a center to play point. Like, Frank is just a wing in a guard's body. Like, I think and hopefully the Mavericks can get to a point where they maybe accept that and try to find other ways around their playmaking deficit with Brunson gone.
Yeah. It must be noted that McKinley Wright, the 4th, had 10 assists.
Yeah.
I mean, that's that. He had 10 assists and 2 turnovers. So you take away his assists and his turnover.
Well, he actually had 0 turnovers. I think you're looking at the foul column.
No, I'm looking at turnover on NBA.
No,
you're right. That's okay. Frank Ntilikina. So you take away his 10 assists. Mavericks had 10 assists and 24 turnovers.
Wow.
So just sort of a sloppy game from the ball handling standpoint, but it is what it is. Other than that, there's not really there should. I have nothing to complain about the basketball wise. There's like a couple of budding storyline things that I think I'm going to buck against, and I just sort of wanted to talk about one right now. Like, I have made my peace with the JaVale McGee signing because I think he's going to play 12 to 15 minutes and do some interesting things. I think, a lot of people discount the stuff Dwight Powell brings that are not box score contributions. He plays hard, he sets screens, etc. Whereas McGee's a bit of a stat stuffer. I'm not this budding narrative that he's like this guiding light veteran that brings a lot to the locker room and to the floor. I've watched JaVale McGee's entire career. I understand he has 3 championship rings. He played no part in any of those championship performances. Like Doyle Rader pointed out, he played 0 minutes in the bubble finals. Like what are we doing in that element? Like, let's just not oversell. Like, I'm fine if he, if our buddy Tim Cato tells me like guys really like him, he's a calming presence, etc. Somebody tells me to shut up about this tomorrow, I'm willing to accept this. I just don't want it to be like, we have to set some reasonable expectations for these guys. It's what do I want from JaVale McGee? I want plus minutes. That's all I want. When he's on the floor, I want, lobs to happen and for him to guide some things away from the basket. I feel like some of these things are getting oversold as to the importance. Our buddy Isaac said that in the pre-show basically said that he thought that by mid-season, JaVale McGee could be considered one of the most important offseason signings for the league. And that's a high bar. Maybe these things maybe these things don't matter to other people because it's like, the kind of folks that watch a preseason game and listen half hour in on a preseason podcast are like true diehards. So it's just I don't want, I don't know. I'm really looking forward to the basketball. I just want there to be an element of what's going to happen in the regular season to where we're all sort of on the same page that the Dallas Mavericks are capable of a heck of a lot because they showed it last year, but repeating that is an uphill climb.
Yeah, for
that's
sure.
Okay.
Yeah, that's okay. And, the West is getting better and the Mavericks could play almost as well as they did last season, but thinks they might be a little lower in the standings just because the teams in the West are, 4 or 5 teams below them got, I feel, significantly better, barring, injuries and health. But yeah, the McGee thing, it's one of those things, it's preseason, it's training camp. They're puffing stuff up like that.
Sure.
We lived through the narrative of Justin Jackson being a starter a couple years ago. I mean,
dark times.
These things happen. It's just kind of part of the game.
That's a good point.
Yeah, and, it is. There's a frustrating part of feeling like what's the thing that you're saying? What's the thing you always say? Where
I always say
like
expectations are the thief of joy.
Yeah, that, and then something like where someone's telling you something like the sky. Someone's telling you the sky's green.
Tell me it's raining.
Yeah, that. So I know that. So this thing with McGee being like the locker room president, I'm sure that tickles that pressure point for you. So
a little bit.
Yeah, I get it. And then, like you said, neither of us are in the locker room, so we'll just wait and see, and we'll definitely know. Like, it's not going to be like a hidden thing. If he's legitimately making that much of a positive impact in the locker room, I mean, the guys in that room are gonna report about it. So we'll find out.
That's great. And there's just the early season feelings. We had Brett Brooks wrote about this. Brent Brooks, what's wrong with me? Sorry, Brent. Wrote a longer piece kind of on the psychology of flow as a concept, and I found that pretty interesting because I think that what the Mavericks have going, it's basically a 1,400 word column on why the vibes being immaculate matters to like team success. I enjoyed it, and there's these sorts of things that go on to where there's so much like there's got to be something to the positive aura around the Mavericks. Now, everybody starts the season really excited, but well, maybe not the Phoenix Suns, but like there's got to be something to the fact that the Mavericks don't have any drama going on right now. Like tonight alone, the Golden State Warriors, like Draymond Green got into a fight, which like those things tend to linger. And the fact is, as far as we know, for the past several seasons, there's been no issues in the Mavericks locker room whatsoever that have ever bubbled to the surface. And that's, even with like the KP stuff and like that, there's something to be said about that, like the continuing calmness. And so I think from a game to game element, I will always do what I do, which is get frustrated with specific elements. But I have to acknowledge the fact that what's going on big picture has worked. And right now, the Mavericks really deserve any benefit of the doubt with what they're trying, just because they've made things work in spite of challenges the last 2 seasons.
Yeah. And so, I mean, it'll be nice to start a season not 2 games under 500 a month in and have a COVID outbreak and have Luka miss 10 games with an ankle sprain. Like,
I know, right?
I feel like that's happened 3 straight years now or something like that. So, if they just start the season normal, there's a lot of potential for them to weather the storm of other teams getting better and the West just being a gauntlet. So, yeah, there's definitely something to that. And hey, this is the first season since rookie year where we don't have to worry about integrating Kristaps Porzingis into the offense and trying to solve that puzzle box. And I mean, good Lord, Luka scored 50 something points the first game after KP got traded. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't think there was like a growing animosity there, from what's been reported. Like, it wasn't that, but I think it was just, they were trying to fit a square peg into a round hole at a certain point, and the fact that they don't have to do that anymore is another, probably relief to the psyche of the team. So it's another thing that could help them early on in the season compared to the past 2.
Yep. Well, so here's kind of, we're getting back on our horse. We're writing a lot of stuff in Mavs Moneyball. Got things turned in every day. Got a bigger staff than last year. Looking forward to seeing what people are pumping out. You and I will be back on Friday night, or at least I'm going to be. I don't know if you're going to be here. I should probably ask you that before the show. We'll record on Friday. There's a number, we've had a lot of, I want to continue to do the series. I'll probably do it with Ben just because we started about like player previews that'll probably go up over the weekend. They play a Friday game against the Magic, and then they play one more preseason game a week later. So there's really not, we're like 13 days from opening day.
It's coming.
It's coming. There's a lot of stuff to consider and think about. We're writing a ton. Please visit our website. I'll continue to sort of put out some of these podcasts we've been doing. Probably give Josh, like, ease you back into this, since once the season starts, we're just going to be talking like every 2 days for for what is it, 160 days. So it's there's a lot going on. Yeah, you got anything else? I'll let you take us out of here.
Oh, I think that sounds good. Let's get out of here. It's first preseason game, and we almost only 13 minutes away from our allotment on the program we use to record. So we're right on track. So that was fun. Again, thanks for joining, Kirk, and I'm glad we got to get our first preseason game out of the way. Again, apologies I did not catch enough of it, but I will watch those YouTube highlights and get real excited about Jaden Hardy. And yeah, we'll see you guys next time. It's Mavs Moneyball After Dark. Mavericks beat the Oklahoma City Thunder preseason game number 1, 98-96. We'll talk to you guys later.